Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Confessions of an IT Business Owner. I'm Taylor Thorson, back again with Ryan Goodman, president of ConnectBooster. Kind of feels like we haven't done this in a while.
Well, it's been a couple weeks. Feels good to be back in the saddle.
Yeah.
I think we're shaking off the cobwebs.
I think we're kind of trying to find our stride
cadence
again, but
yeah.
we're
we'll
getting
get there.
there.
Guys. We'll get there.
Watch out for next episode. No, I'm just kidding. Today we have a super fun episode. Colin Knox is joining us.
Yeah.
Owned an MSP previously, founded Passportal, and recently kind of started a new, really cool venture, you could say, called Gradient Msp. So we have a lot of information for you guys.
Yeah. I think one of the things that you're going to be excited to learn about is the vision of his, the future vision of his organization, the ability for MSPs and vendors to make decisions based on non-bias aggregated data. So stay tuned. It's a lot of fun. I can tell you firsthand, Colin Knox knocks this one out of the park.
We knew that one was coming.
I'm done with that.
We knew that one was coming. But super great episode. We're really excited for everyone listening, and thanks for tuning in.
Colin Knox. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Well, awesome. Thanks for joining us today on Confessions of an IT Business Owner. I told you my voice
I love
sounds
the deep
like that.
voice.
Yeah. This is my
dark.
fake voice. I always talk like this.
See, it looks like you're at nighttime and I'm like daytime. We're on different sides of the world, it feels like.
Yeah, I'm in Australia right now. I'm just kidding. Fargo, North Dakota. Yeah.
Still in North Dakota.
Isn't it winter right now down there, though?
It's winter everywhere right now. No, it's not. It's just really, for us, it's really rainy. But it might be winter time for them. I know South America is winter time now. So Australia must be too.
I would think so. Most people think
Let's pretend it is.
June in Fargo is winter time too. But we've had like 102 degrees. Have you guys been hot too?
Holy crap. We've had some hot weather, yeah. So we like hot for us though is like 90, high 80s, low 90s, and surprisingly, was it last week? Yeah, we had like 3 days in a row of that, which is super uncanny for like late May, beginning of June.
Yeah.
So I think that's when all the air conditioning HVAC companies are like, all right, baby, here it comes.
You did the conversion really fast. As soon as I said 103, I'm like, crap, you're in Canada. I'm talking Fahrenheit.
Sure
You flipped it around. I'm like, everyone would be dead.
That's part of the beauty of Americans, right? They just force you to adapt.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm going to talk
like,
my language, and you're going to translate.
Yeah, you're like, hey, listen, we're going Fahrenheit. You ready? And no processes totally cool. On this show. I need you to say
nothing
process.
But process and policies. Actually, policies is always policies. What am I? And I remember I did an in-studio webinar with ConnectWise one time, and Dan and I had gone and done this whole recording, and then the video guy comes back and he goes, yeah, we're going to have to retake that, and here's some advice I'm going to give you. And he was an expat Canadian over in the US, and he's like, here's all the words you mispronounced. So let's and ever since then, we're like, before we go on stage for anything, we're like, all right. Process.
The three.
And
the big
just
three.
Go through them.
Get these down. Now, everyone listening probably thinks, okay, you guys are way off the rails, but the fact of the matter is I'm going to bring this back home. I thought about it in my mind. I connected all the dots, and I'm going to bring it back to COVID. Again, oversold, talked about. But the fact of the matter is you're in Alberta, and, being the States, things are starting to loosen up, but you guys are still locked down. You're just starting to get out of this.
Yeah, we're
lockdown.
Still in some heavy restrictions here, so it's looking at opening up. I think today's actually a day that they're going to announce what some of the lessened restrictions are.
Okay, cool.
They did open up, so we were allowed to go by appointment only to get haircuts. So I did that last weekend.
Nice.
You can
looking good.
Fresh. Yeah. Hey, feels good. Less castaway. Much more like business in a t-shirt still. But yeah, it's opening up a little bit here. I mean, they're very cautious, right? Because we'd gotten down to low case volumes a good while ago, and then they opened stuff up and everybody just went crazy with it and wanting to get back to normal life. And then boom, we just had like quintupled our case volumes from one week to the next. And then they're like, oh crap,
Time to
stop
settle
it,
down.
stop it. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully, with the help of vaccinations and people just realizing that, wow, we got 2 weeks of freedom last time. Let's take it a bit easier and have some more this time around. So yeah, still hopeful. Like we've got the Calgary Stampede here, which is billed as the greatest outdoor show on earth, our big rodeo and stuff. And that's the first week of it kind of kicks off the first Friday of July generally for 10 days, and we canceled it last year for the first time in like 100 years. It was canceled, and so it's billed to still be going on this year. So we'll see if they're able to pull it off and make stuff happen for it. But yeah, bit by bit, we're getting better.
So as these restrictions come off, what's one thing you guys are looking forward to do as a family?
Oh God, so many things, man. I need a holiday, man. Like, it's not, the staycations are not the same. Like we thought, and we're like, okay, we can do this, and we've done a couple of them now because we're like 18 years into this. But yeah, it's not the same at all. Like, there's something to be said about just waking up, having some super high caloric breakfast at a buffet, and then going and laying your ass down by a pool and doing nothing all day. Awesome. Right? Like, so I think that's going to be one of the first things. We're going to start looking at some flights to some place in the tropics that we can go hang out and enjoy and get a little bit crazy. Cool. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for us. Second is hit up an industry event again,
right?
And see all of my friends that it was like we'd see each other like every other week for the longest time, and then now Boom. It's like
18 months.
Oh man, I don't know if I'm going to recognize everybody.
Well, now you're back to a haircut. See. You'll be good. Everyone will recognize you now. 2 weeks ago, I don't know, but I think you're good to go. You're
right?
prepped. You're good to go.
So far.
Now, many people know you in the industry from Passportal. I don't think a lot of people know, you had started out as an MSP, and I'd love to hear a little bit about your start in that business.
Yeah, so I kind of stumbled into the MSP market. I'd started out where I was like a bench tech help desk guy for a really large oil and gas services company, and did some of that work for a while, and then became systems administrator and everything. And there was a lot of consolidation happening because that was a global business, so they were starting to centralize shared services and stuff. And I really didn't feel like making a big move down south and trying to uproot everything. So started looking for some other jobs and stumbled across this little IT services company that was looking for somebody, and I figured, you know what, I could do that. So kind of stepped into, I think I was the fourth person at that IT company, so really small. And so worked there for a good while, started to learn the ropes of what it's like to balance and manage numerous companies and different systems and networks and everything else, and not just being able to walk down a hall to deal with somebody, but having to be pretty clever either remotely or pick up and drive somewhere. So did that stuff for a year, and then we had lost a client to a larger kind of mid-sized IT company. And in the transition, we were doing some knowledge transfer and everything else. And I had been asked, it wasn't even really my client, but I'd been asked to kind of go and help hand things off. And then that company came through and they're like, hey, you looking for a job? So I was like, sure, why not? So I ended up switching over to that company. And they were probably about 20 people at the time. So kind of grew up through the ranks there over the course of a few years, from being a service tech into doing some special projects consultancy, and then taking over their service operations as their service manager. And so that had grown to about 35 people by the end. And, silly me, same thing, was like, you know what? I think I could do it better than this. I think I could do this. And so I started up an MSP with a buddy of mine and quickly realized that it was not as easy as I expected it to be. Twofold. One was just being in business. The next was like having a business partner that you thought you knew something about, but you only knew them personally and knew zilch about them professionally. And so that was a train wreck. You want to talk about going off the rails. That was like of epic proportions for me at that time of my life. So I kind of took a step back and said, do I really want to do this? Do I want to go work somewhere else or whatever? And I figured I'd give it another go, but as a solo, founder type thing, and did that, and was very fortunate. Stars aligned. We had some interesting economic times here in Alberta, predominantly oil and gas here, and I think you remember 2008, 2009. Well, as currency dropped and banks fell apart and price of oil came down, I was like, maybe this was not a good idea. But turns out at that point, we were one of the first companies, surprisingly, to be actually offering flat rate IT services at the time. Because, I think it's safe to say Canada at the time was a few years behind with what was happening in the US. And fortunately, the larger IT company I'd been working for was one of the first members of, or was one of the members of one of the first HTG groups. So I was lucky enough to come, go down and participate in those and hear what a bunch of other MSPs were doing and stuff. And I tried to sell that concept to the owners, and they weren't quite ready for it yet. So I was like, when I was doing my own thing, I said, let's give this a try. And holy crap, man, the cost certainty model for these companies that just we're so sick of these ebbs and flows, and all of a sudden there's, a virus outbreak or mass file deletes or something happens and they've got this massive bill. And man, we just took off. Like we hit $1 million in revenue in our first year. Hired on a few people, and just every single year after that, we hit some special sauce that let us grow really quickly. So we got to $4 million in revenue in just 5 years at that MSP. I like to say I had 2 exits with that company. I exited the daily operations and still kept padding the pockets for a year and a half after leaving it. And then a much larger competitor kind of swooped in and said, hey, you're not there anymore. Can we just buy it and take that off your hands? And then we did had the acquisition exit in 2016, focused on Passportal at the time and driving that business forward. So.
Oh, that's interesting. And you brought up a good question, because you had mentioned that 1.5 year gap where you were able to, you had the business leveraged really well, operationally. And, the question that popped in my mind was, were you focusing on Passportal at that time? Follow-up question, was that your first then endeavor into, the vendor space? I'd love to learn a little bit about that process. I mean, was it your own pain? Was it, you saw an opportunity because of, the network you were around in those HTG groups, you got some exposure,
I think
instead of just being
it was something that I had seen for a good while. I mean, when I look back to the MSP kind of IT company I'd been working in for a few years, I mean, when we were techs, we had this access database that was managing passwords, and never failed that somebody was away on vacation and you'd go to do something for their client, none of the passwords worked. And so you couldn't help your client, right? And it was embarrassing to say the least. And you would think for the business owners, but man, you are the tech live on scene, and you can't log into the IT system that you allegedly manage,
you can't
right?
do anything,
And so you're trying to get a hold of the tech that's on vacation, stuff like that. They get back, oh yeah, I changed those passwords. And so then we tried to have the pre-vacation checklist. Go through and make sure all these passwords are right. Yeah, right. What are they going to do? Like go and test log into every single network and server and stuff like that. No, they looked at, they're like, yeah, it looks right. No, still have issues. And, just a pain in the butt. And so I had actually recommended to them, because I'd gone out to an HTG thing. I think it was in Dallas. This is probably like 2007 type of thing. And I had asked them all, because I had just, as the service manager, had my ass kicked by a big client because we couldn't help them. Right. And we're trying to chase down. And then we had a tech who was pissed off because we just bugged their vacation. Right. So I went and I was like, how are you guys handling this? Like, tell me there's something. And they're like, oh, no, we don't. We use Excel, or do you remember public folders in Exchange? That was like one of the most popular solutions, it seemed, for managing passwords. Oh, yeah.
It sounds secure, too. I mean, it sounds like there's no issues with,
So that's what we started doing for a bit, right? And I went back and I told the owners of that MSP, I was like, we should build something. Like, we were profitable. We were good-sized business. I was like, let's build something. People will buy this. They're like, nope, no interest. This is what we do. Yeah. This is how we do. Okay, fine. And then, when I did that partnership, I looked at it and I was like, man, we should probably do something, but just didn't have the time. And so when we were about, focus. I guess it would be almost 2 years into Excel, we'd still been having the same troubles and struggles and stuff. And then two things happened within that same year. One was we had a technician that had left our company. They decided to leave. It wasn't anything ugly or anything else, but we kind of said, okay, well, let's, do what we need to do and go out and change every single password at all of our clients, because chances are he's seen them all. And just for kind of fun, we created a ticket in Autotask to track how much time it took us. It took us over 30 hours to change all those passwords, and we probably still missed some.
Yeah.
And we were like, holy crap. So we'd started at that point, like putting a call out on like LinkedIn groups and little forums. Like Reddit wasn't even a thing yet. Just like, how are people doing this? And nobody had an answer. And then the next thing happened is one of our oil and gas companies had their IPO and then had to abide by Sarbanes-Oxley and get audited. Well, we were sitting there with like a Big Four auditor that's saying, tell us how you manage all your privileged credentials and ensure nobody who shouldn't have access does. You have a full record of everybody who's had access. You've got like, and I was like, oh my God, this company is going to fail their audit because we don't have anything. And so we kind of looked at the bank account and got a couple quotes and bids from some dev shops, and we were like, let's build something. And we built it kind of for us, and we needed it, and realized, and I had long thought it could be an opportunity in the industry, so we commercialized it from the get-go. And we kind of just let it sit there and put it out there, and we slowly, without any focus on Passportal as a business, over a few years, we had a couple hundred MSPs that had found it and they signed up and they were using it. And finally, I think, a couple people had come up and said like, hey, we're paying for this. Like, you got to start supporting this product now, and you got to start doing stuff with it. And we're like, do we? Should we? Like, really? Everything else. And then he became a business partner of mine. And we were out at an industry event, and we're, talking to some people, and these guys came by and they're like, you're the Passportal guys. We're like, we're recognized as Passportal guys? Like, you, what? And so we were kind of like, maybe we should do something with it. So we made the choice at that point. Let's split up the business. I'll go over and focus on that and get it going. And, fortunately everything worked out well for us on that. And we really ran after that market and had a lot of fun with it.
So I have an off-the-cuff question for you because, starting different businesses, especially early on in my career, I was like, we're going to have Dev come in and we're going to help create this AR automation product. Like, maybe I'll put like 30 grand into it. I think it's going to go really well. We'll make a ton of, did you have those same, like, I mean, I was so far off by millions of dollars.
I love that you brought this up.
I was like,
oh man. Cause I think what a lot of people don't like, there's one thing to like build something as functional. There's a whole other to have it built
Right.
reliably, stable, effectively, secure, and then to
Yes.
be able to provide that service and maintain it. And holy crap, like the
Yeah.
amount of times that we had people um, that would come in and they'd demo our software, or they'd find out the price, which was not much. Like I don't, dude,
Right. Yeah. You're
it's like
like, do
150
you
bucks a month, right?
understand what's being
If it was even that. I think actually we were like 139 a month for most MSPs. But
Right. Right.
they're like, I'm just gonna build my own. I'll build my own and blah blah blah, and I'm gonna compete with you or whatever. And I was like, I don't think you have a clue. Like, yeah, we went into it the first thing, so we got some bids. I think we spent 25 or 30 grand to get the very first
Yeah.
version of it built. And it was extremely underwhelming. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, this was
Right.
not
Right.
pretty. I think I've got screenshots somewhere of the very
Yeah.
first versions, but
I got the same
but
thing going.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, you'd get a request, or you'd have an idea, and you're like, oh man, wouldn't it be awesome if we weren't just protecting them, but we could automate the changes against like Microsoft, like
Right.
Active Directory and stuff? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, there's another 50 grand. And then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
now we have to scale up a cloud to host this stuff. Oh, now we've got to like secure that cloud. Oh, now we've like just on and on. So by the time we actually were focused on Passportal, I think we were up to about 350 grand we had invested in
Right.
getting it to that
Right.
point. And that was really a thing where we were, I've told stories on other like just business podcasts and stuff, not necessarily MSP ones, but we were at a juncture actually. So it was,
Absolutely.
I want to say it was March or May of 2014. And we said, okay, like we're either going to run with this or we're not. And we had put a bunch of money in, and it kind of dropped our jaws to realize how much we had put in when we added it all up. And so we said, okay, here's going to be our like determination thing. If we can get somebody else or other people to invest in this to almost match what we've invested to date, that's
legs.
our proof and validation that we're going to go and run after this, that other people believe in it, right? And so we said we're going to give ourselves 6 months. If at 6 months we haven't done it, then we'll just ship the code off to everybody that's bought it and say, hey, you can't sell it, you can't do this, but spin up your own instance and run it and use it, and good luck with it. And yeah, it took into November of 2014. So we were like 1 month shy of shutting it down.
Just right
and we
down to the
convinced
line, yeah.
3 brave souls to put 100 grand each into us at that point. And
awesome.
We were like, all right, this is it. I guess we're doing this. And so then we drove it. But yeah, it's amazing. Like when you look at the millions of dollars that we sunk into that business over the course of would have been about 8 years, but really even in the 4.5 until we were acquired, like holy man, like it just stacks and stacks and stacks.
Hey guys, here with a quick break from our show to remind you to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening. If you have suggestions for future episodes or you want to be a guest on the podcast, email us at podcast@connectbooster.com or send us a message on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll be sure to point you in the right direction. Lastly, to find out more about our guests, check out their information in the podcast description. Thanks for listening to the Confessions of an IT Business Owner. Let's get back to the show. So now I want to shift gears on you a little bit because you're in a new venture. I think it's probably safe to say, Colin, you are now classified as a serial entrepreneur, educated a couple times over.
School of Hard Knocks.
You've gone into, but you've launched Gradient MSP. And so what drove you to jump back into the chaos of a tech SaaS, entrepreneur so quickly after selling Passportal?
I think it's like amnesia or no, you know what? Like I after we
all in all, it went okay.
Yeah, it went okay, but it's funny how much you do forget, right? Like when I left SolarWinds after integrating Passportal into that business. well, I guess enable now. That's kind of exciting to watch. But I thought I was just going to be done. Like I figured, you know what? We're young. Let's take time off, see what retirement feels like. Maybe do some advising, do some investing, just kind of coast. And one thing I learned is it's totally not fun to retire when none of your friends are retired. Sure. Like,
I can imagine.
It's incredibly lonely. Like there's only so many mountain drives you can do by yourself, right? It's kind of, I don't know. I equate myself to like when you first move out of your parents' house and you're like, I'm gonna eat crap food, I'm gonna stay up late, I'm gonna blast my music, and then like 2 weeks in, you're like, I feel like a bag of crap. My house is a mess. I'm overtired, exhausted. I think I should probably just start living a proper life again, right? It's kind of the same thing.
I hate Doritos now. Oh, Doritos are disgusting. I'm never gonna touch
just the smell. But I did that stuff. But like I love the MSP space, right? Like having been in it and part of it for so long, I couldn't detach. And like instead of reading local news, I was still reading E2E. I was still reading Channel Futures, digging in on the Facebook groups, the subreddit. And the amount of questions that fly from MSPs every day, just about everything, right? Like, what should I do about this client? How do I handle this HR situation? What should I be charging? Who should I be partnered with? How should I be going about this? And I was like, there's still so much opportunity to help this industry. And I almost felt indebted to be able to give back again to help people, hopefully achieve greater levels of success. And so kind of called up partners from the Passportal days, and we had some chats and said like, is there a way that we can drive success? And so we kind of just continued to observe the market and kind of stumbled on what we think is a pretty neat idea, pretty nifty.
Yeah.
But said, hey, like let's dig in again and get going.
What is Gradient MSP?
It just is, Ryan. Just is.
Oh,
no.
This sounds really.
You know what? Like so the
really
premise,
good.
It's good. So when we thought about how can we drive MSP success, we almost did that reverse engineering project. We're like, what drives success? And what we figured was it's making good decisions, right?
Correct.
It's not, you could say making more money, you could say having more clients, you could say all these things, but those were all based off of the decisions that were made, right? Yep. Whether it's how do we want to go to market? What should we go to market with? How much should we charge the market? Anything that way. When should we hire people? All of those decisions. Should we build a crazy office with twirly slides in it? It's all these decisions. And so we said, how can we help make better decisions and help MSPs make better decisions? And how can we impact the decisions that are being made in a positive manner? And what we landed on was, some amazing research that's out there about performance of data-driven organizations versus non-data-driven organizations. And we said, if we can impact and improve the data that's informing the decisions for MSPs, not just how it's visualized, not how they interpret it, but just impacting the quality and accuracy and even quantity of the data that they have access to, we believe that will help make better decisions and inform better decisions that fuels greater success and ultimately rises the tide for the entire industry. And so that's where we've started. So we're building a data intelligence platform where we launched just recently our first module, which is a data hygiene module, because we figured, hey, what's the first thing we can do to make sure that this data is good? Well, we can clean it up and get rid of all the old crap that doesn't matter anymore and that just muddies the view when you're trying to read a report. So we started out there, and we're on this path to what we're, referring to as data equality for our industry, where, MSPs can contribute their data into a secure, private, anonymous platform where everything gets scrubbed and de-identified, and we deliver some initial value to the MSPs, but in a dream where we can compile a list of data that's not hoarded or siloed by any ecosystem or used for any manner of bias outside of just providing transparency to MSPs so that they can understand and see this is how the businesses that are ahead of me have performed. Here's what they've done to get there. Here's what they've done that's hindered their growth. And really use that to say, hey, if you think about Clippy from back in the day, right? Like, looks like you're trying to write a resume. Want some help here, right? Like,
right.
Hey, you're trying to grow an MSP. Let's call it what it is. You're trying to grow that business, but you don't know what you need. You don't know what you don't know. So here's the things that the successful ones who have grown to that next stage of revenue have done to get there. Here's what your peers are charging for these services. You're undercharging, you're overcharging. Should you step into this service offering or service category? Or do you maybe want to wait until your peers and MSPs have hit a certain percentage of adoption and you've got confidence that their clients are retaining those services so that you don't have to invest and risk that investment that then comes out like, I don't know if you remember the MDM wave of like 2010 or whatever it was, where every RMM brought in MDM and it was going to be the next wave for MSPs. Yeah. And so we all jumped on it and bought mass bulk licensing and tried to educate, and the market just wasn't ready for it. There was no interest, right? And it was this big flop. So if we can avoid, people risking investments on things like that to give more time for it to prove out so the early adopters can do that because that's what they thrive on, and then the rest of the industry can watch. And not just have to listen to what the vendors have said is really happening, right? And all this great marketing that's done.
For sure.
But to have that substantiation and qualification that, no, it really is doing well. And now I can jump in and do stuff. And that's one example of many, but that's what our dream is to get towards, that where really there's this, big inequity in data amongst the MSP market. So if we can use and fuel that data to fuel the growth of MSPs, and then in our opinion, one thing, having now run some vendors of both small, medium, and massive, we don't know what we don't know as vendors about MSPs. How many times is there a launch of anything and you go on the MSP subreddit or the Facebook groups and they're like, wow, these guys clearly don't know us. They do not get us. They missed the mark.
Right.
And then it's like the megaphone, hey, can you hear us? This is what we really want, right? But the problem is there's like 60,000 megaphones all shouting in a different way, using different words and stuff at the vendors, and they just can't hear it, right? Because it's not consistent. So if we can use that anonymized data to help inform vendors about what the industry needs, right? Where we're missing the mark on partner enablement, where we're missing the mark on margins, where we're missing the mark on not even knowing where our MSP partners' time is being spent supporting our solutions so that we can fix it. Because we know the MSPs are bitching about it inside their business nonstop. Oh, why can't they just fix this?
Right.
Do they not know I have to reinstall this agent every single time and stuff? No, they don't know.
Right.
Right? That's the thing. So if we can build a data platform that says, hey, your partners are reinstalling this agent like every 2 weeks. You got to solve this, right? That catches attention now. And that's a way that we can hopefully help channel vendors improve their products, which helps their MSPs be more successful and makes everybody more successful. So
that's really cool.
That's kind of where we're going.
I want to break this down just to make, this is, guys, this is as much for me as anyone to make sure I'm wrapping my head around. You did a great job. I want to try to break it down into 3 points. What I'm seeing is it's not only benchmarking for MSPs to understand where they sit as far as best of breed to their peers. And, that kind of harkens back to your early days in HTG too, right? Like the data you were looking for. Sorry.
But I'll pause there, because I think a fundamental issue that has happened with all the benchmarking that's been out there is a lot of it, on one hand, has been Well, there's a few issues with it that I see. On one hand, it's a lot of self-assessment or survey-based.
Sure.
It's not coming
Just
from a source of truth, right?
Raw data.
So that's one issue with it. The second issue is every time that those reports are put out in the industry, there's some level of bias associated to it, even if it's not with bias, right? Because it doesn't matter what company puts it out, and it's valid data and it's valid information, but there's always this underlying motive to buy more product or to do this or align more with their business. And I get it. I've run the playbook and I've done, and it makes sense. But don't MSPs deserve to just know for the sake of knowing at some point? And the other thing is when we were a smaller MSP, right? When we were 1 million and we were 2 million and stuff. To me, it wasn't inspiring to know how the best in class was all performing, right? Awesome. You just told me that my profit margin is shit.
I'm horrible.
You just told me I haven't grown enough, right? So why can't benchmarking be segmented down? Why can't I look at other $1 million MSPs and see how they grew year over year? Why can't I look at other MSPs in my region, right? Because there's such economic diversity even across the US, right? California is a much different economy than Texas is, which is much different than what Georgia is, right? Like, why can't I segment down to see how other MSPs are performing where I live, right?
Incredibly interesting.
And in my revenue band. That's going to give me a better picture if I'm, hitting the mark, if I'm underperforming, if I am performing. So that's one of the areas that we're looking to help address and resolve.
It's incredible thought leadership. I love the concept, and that makes a heck of a lot of sense. The other side is, you had talked about helping MSPs make sound investments, into offering or adopting a new technology, or even, getting a benchmark or a feeling on a wave, on a new trend, and where they want to be on that bell curve of success. Very interesting there. The other thing that I heard loud and clear was a mission around alignment between the vendors and MSPs in the channel where you see a major disconnect. Am I describing all that right? I mean, I want to bounce this off of you and gut check all of it here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when we kind of stated our purpose, our why at Gradient, it was to give vision and voice to MSPs, small and large. And to us, every word in that statement is so important. I think vision-wise, MSPs have had amazing, reporting tools, BI tools, data visualization tools, but much like anything else, man, like garbage in, garbage out. And you can be looking at pretty dashboards all day long. If that's not good data,
they're leading you right off the cliff.
You're screwed.
Yep, for sure.
Exactly. The other thing is, like, let's have a sense of humility here, and I'm included. Like, hand up, I'm included in the part. Like, I stumbled into entrepreneurship. I was not a business person. I was a business owner. I was not a business person. So when we got BrightGauge and we bought BrightGauge, I had no idea. Like, is this stuff good? Is it bad? How do I impact this? What do I do? Right? Where's that level of intelligence that now, technology has evolved to a state that we could provide it, but make a recommendation to me. Tell me I need to solve this. Tell me what levers I can pull to solve that or to impact it, right? Like, that's so huge in being able to help people move forward and recognizing that type of, flaw. Then the next thing is get visibility and vision of the industry, of what's real, what's not, right? So many times we've had to make ideas on just marketing, right? We've sat through demos, which I've run demos where the bugs in the software. I'm sure you've done it too. And you step around them, or you're talking to like dev right before you go on to a big demo and be like, did we solve that one? I'd really like to show that, right? And then they get into the software and it's a letdown, right? Like, but just giving that visibility. Now, when it comes to the voice, it's same thing. I've been on the vendor side, and it's not a disrespectful thing, but it almost doesn't matter if you're spending $500 a month or $500,000 a year. It's still one voice to that vendor, and they have to weigh that, because much like in your business, every customer is important, because you never know what customer is going to grow, what's not, and you have to go based on the basis of numbers. So when you have thousands of partners or tens of thousands of partners, it's a voting and weight system by like how many people have requested this, how many. And so if I hear one thing but 1,000 different ways, it's still one thing, 1,000 different things, right? So if we can amass thousands and thousands of MSPs together and see very clearly with the data what's ailing them in their partnerships, then we can go and say, here's what the voice of 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 MSPs of what's happening across your partners. Not like, hey, Harry running ABC MSP out of Wyoming is not that, right? It's just, here's what's happening with your partners. Now that's something that catches weight with them. That's stuff that gets discussed in the boardroom. That's stuff that makes it to product management, and they go, we got a problem here, we got to solve. Because every vendor is well-intentioned. They want to do right by their partners. They want to deliver great stuff to their partners, every single one of them. But they can't hear it well enough. They can't cut through the noise. So that's where we can give voice to MSPs. And that whole like small and large, let's face it, right? So many people market to the 10 employees and up. So many people market to the $5-10 million MSPs. The wealth of our industry still, and there's no straight fact. I think the best research that I've still come across is from CompTIA in 2016. It said 88%, almost 90% of MSPs around the world are 10 employees and under, right? So why is that not getting the attention that it deserves, right? That it's the vast majority. It's the bulk of the market now, right? And it's the same when you look at the business world, right? Small business makes up like 70% of the world's business. Their spend is equivalent in IT and technology to both enterprise and consumer combined annually, right? So how can we give them better voice? How can we give them better attention and focus? So that's what we're doing.
I'm going to shift gears on you a little bit. So, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just going to throw this out there, and it's going to be a bit of an uncomfortable question too. I mean, free? Am I right on this? Right now we're free. You got a paid model, like, What are you doing as far as pricing?
You can pay us if you want. I'll give you my home address. You can mail money.
I'm gonna
Is that legal?
EFT over to
you. Actually, we're gonna set up with ConnectBooster, and you guys do ACH?
Talk to me about your model, as far as revenue.
Yeah. So here's what I think is, I've long wanted to play a full SaaS playbook. And I've not seen many times that it's been done in the MSP space, even though it should be possible, right? When I look at how SaaS performs in the consumer world, it's frictionless. And if I want to buy something, forget SaaS. If I want to buy almost anything today, it's frictionless, right? If I I love cars.
Yes, I know.
You can see that.
100%.
But so if I want to buy a car today, I do not have to go into a bunch of different dealerships and tell them all my cell phone number and my email address and my name and fill out a credit application and then tell everybody what I'm looking for. And no, I search online and I look at all the different options, and I know what kind of features I want and what type of vehicle I want, and then it filters it down and gives me suggestions, and then I can look at it and I can say, okay, now I can read safety ratings, I can watch review videos, I can see sales numbers of all these vehicles online and stuff like that. I've essentially made my buying decision of what vehicle I'm buying with which features. I know pretty much what it should cost me. It's just a matter of me walking into one dealership and I've got two things left to do. I want to test drive the vehicle to see if I actually like the feel of it and fit and finish of it. And then I get to negotiate my price and close a deal, right? Why can't MSPs buy any services like that today?
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. I didn't even give out pricing information before. People had to fill out a form to find out the price for my freaking software, right? And there's a whole bunch of reasons behind that, but how can we evolve that? How can we give the transparency that they need so that an MSP doesn't feel like everything I go to, I'm now going to be hounded for the next 2 years every week by a salesperson saying, hey, you ready to buy it? Hey, is that competitor X let you down yet? They should be able to go in and buy any MSP tool the way that they would buy a car or any other product today as a consumer. So that's the approach we've taken, right? We're frictionless. We actually have a pricing page on our website, even though it's all free right now. Bit tongue-in-cheek and a bit fun, but we will eventually have pricing. But if you want to watch a demo, go watch a demo. Right? If you want to use the software, like go in and use the software, right? Why aren't there trials anymore? Go in and use it. These are all technology experts that we're selling to. I am pretty sure I don't need to show them how to use software or how to set something up, right? Like they've done it a million times. So that's the approach that we're taking. And now, the elephant in the room, right? It's free. It's not completely free, and we understand that. It might not cost a dollar figure, but we're very open and transparent. We're building a data intelligence platform. And that's not so we can sell your data anywhere and be like Facebook that says, hey, Johnny's doing this. You might want to give him a shout and sell him this, right? Or post ads or any of that. No. It's so that, imagine the power. This is what data equality is. Data equality is data for one is data for all. Now, at some point, we need to be paid to be the amalgamator of data, the one that provides the intelligence and the reporting and all the investment that we have to put into making sense of it and protecting it. Like, let's just say, so we're going through our SOC 2 Type 1 audit right now. SOC 2 Type 2 kicks off. That audit starts in next
just that has
month,
an annual cost after that too.
Right? Then you got ISO 27001, right? We're dropping serious buckaroos on all of this stuff to secure that data. But imagine now, data for one, data for all. Who wouldn't make an investment where if I gave $1 or let's say $100, I can get $100,000 back.
Yeah.
Right?
One to many.
That's what we're building here, right? Every MSP that gives their data in and it gets scrubbed and de-identified and anonymized, you're going to get back and fed with all the data of your peers, which, our hope is that all together as a movement that we're trying to put here is thousands or tens of thousands of MSPs globally. Yeah. Can you imagine being fed the wealth of information of 10,000 MSPs behind you to say, I am doing the right thing? Or if you're going to a bank or applying for investment or trying to raise money to say, here's my proof point that this is going to work, right? Or just your own confidence in things. Or, holy crap, 2,000 MSPs did this and it went bad. We're not doing that, right? So that's what we're trying to do, that ROI, to be able to give back to the industry and do it. You've got the vendors who are spending $50,000, $100,000, we've got vendors that are spending 7 figures on industry reports, on research with groups like Forrester and Gartner and everything else, right? Imagine just shifting that all on its head. And I know that that's ambitious, audacious even, right? But that's what we're trying to do is, right? If you want this industry to understand, everybody knows who Thoma Bravo and Vista Equity Partners and Insight Ventures are. Can you imagine if they actually understood MSPs? What good they could do for this industry with their money? Unreal, right? That's what you're contributing towards. And so that's why it's a free product. we understand if nobody trusts us, if nobody wants to participate, we've got nothing, right? And we hope that that's not the case, because we see like there's this $100 billion opportunity in the next few years for MSPs to take in market share. Like that's massive. And so if we can accelerate or just better secure the capture of that revenue for this market, holy crap, we want to do that, right? So we understand like we've got nothing if it's not with like I'm not up on a stage saying your success is our success and then, you know, when you profit we profit. No. We literally at Gradient have zero if
that's
MSPs
wild,
don't
man.
participate.
That's awesome.
So how can we drive value to them? How can we help them? And that's really what we're about. I sit back and I think if I knew all the things that I could have known as an MSP when I was running mine, we grew fast. We could have probably doubled that growth because we made a lot of bad decisions, right? It's just finding ways to get out of your way and being able to fuel yourself with what your peers have done. Awesome. So full transparency, that's where we're going. And when we're able to provide that information back to you in a secure, private manner, with the intelligence backed and like our data scientists that are, you know, consuming and creating models and everything else, that's what we need to get paid for, right? But we're a transparent organization. Like we will be sharing everything about our business performance with the industry. Awesome. We've got nothing to hide. We are going to be a for-profit organization, but that should fuel more R&D to be able to drive greater success and greater benefit to this industry. So that's cool. That's where we're going towards.
I really do appreciate it that you're coming on the program. I mean, I'm hoping we can do our part in, you know, getting the message out and getting the adoption of MSPs to start, you know, because that's going to be, like you had mentioned, critical to the success. And boy, I sure love the intentions of what's going on. And if history has anything to say about how this is going to go, I think you're going to hit it out of the park, my man.
Here's hoping, man. But really looking forward to trying to drive this forward, to work with MSPs, understand MSPs even better, and find the ways that we can leave a lasting mark on this industry.
I oftentimes find myself the dumbest person in the room. Okay, let's be fair. And so if I'm really excited and see the potential, I know all of our listeners are going to be excited about the prospects of what you are doing inside of the market. So. Thank you. That's very cool. And what a great way to give back to the community that has, contributed to the success of your past companies as well. It's a cool way to give back. Maybe I'm off mark, but that's how I see it, man. It's really neat. It's really neat.
Thanks.
So I'm going to close this down, but any final thoughts, before we end this program and hopefully see each other out on the road here soon enough. Yeah.
On the road somewhere. You know what? I think just keep after it. If there's one thing you can do as an MSP or as a business owner, celebrate your little wins, recognize how far you've come, and just keep going for it. Like you started for a reason, you had a purpose, you had a why, see it through, keep pushing. I know that the last year and a half has been like the shittiest on record, and you've made it through. Like you're at this point, you've made it through. Keep pushing, keep going, because you've clearly got the resilience to succeed.
Crush those goals.
That's it, man.
Thanks again, Colin. Appreciate you, man. Looking forward to the next time we get to talk.
Thank you.